You're watching South Asia Newsline and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Monday, the 15th of September. Attempts to harm ties with India will fail, says Russia amid US tariff pressure. Nepal's interim PM vows service over power, 3 newly appointed ministers take oath. And Pakistan embarrassed at UN after human rights lawyer calls it terror sponsor. And now for all the details. Russia's foreign ministry has hailed India for continuing its cooperation with Moscow despite the US pressure to cut trade ties and imposition of additional tariffs. Answering to questions by RT, the state-run TV network, the ministry said that Russia-India relations are steadily and confidently advancing and any attempt to obstruct this process is destined to fail. It further welcomed the fact that India, despite pressure and threats, was showing its commitment to continue and expand multifaceted cooperation with Russia. Moscow reiterated their partnership is based on the highest value of sovereignty and the primacy of national interest. The ministry also highlighted that the two nations are currently working together on payment systems and creating alternative transport and logistics routes. The US in August imposed unprecedented duties on most Indian products, which include an initial 25% tariff plus an additional 25% introduced as a penalty for Indian purchases of Russian oil and defense equipment. India, however, has maintained its stance that securing affordable oil is central to protecting national interest and energy security. And in her first address to the nation, Nepal's new Prime Minister Sushila Karki, who assumed office on Sunday, just days after the fall of KP Sharma Oli's government, said that she and her team were not interested in power and that they were focused on serving the country. The former Chief Justice of Nepal, Karki, added that her interim government would work for 6 months, after which the authority would be handed over to a newly elected government.
स्थितिमा म आए कुनै रहरले म आएको होइन सडकबाट जताततैबाट मलाई फलानालाई सुशीला कार्कीलाई जिम्मा देऊ भनेर आवाज उठ्यो मैले पनि विवश हुनु पर्यो र जहाँसम्म मेरो जुन टिम छ टिमले जुन काम गरिरहेछ हामीले चाहिँ के छ भने हामी कुनै यो सत्ताको यो पदको रसस्वादन गर्न आएको होइन मेरो उमेर पनि होइन त्यो हामीले के चाहेको भने ठीक छ हाम्रोलाई खोजियो आवाज गरियो त हामीले यो बेलामा किन सेवा नगर्ने भनेर सक्तो हामीले के गर्यौं भने 6 महिना मात्रै अवधि त्यो भन्दा बढी नबस्ने कुनै हालतमा पनि हामीले पूरा यो आफ्ना काम कारबाही गरेर हामी चाहिँ मुक्त हुने र नयाँ आउने संसद नयाँ आउने मन्त्रीहरूलाई जिम्मेवारी र दायित्व सुम्पिने हाम्रो चाहिँ एउटा हामीले अठोट गरेका छौं.
Meanwhile, Nepal's President Ramchandra Paudel has dissolved the parliament and announced fresh parliamentary elections for the 21st of March next year. On Monday, the president administered the oath of office and secrecy to Rameshwar Khanal as finance minister, Kulman Singh as Minister for Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, and Om Prakash Aryal as the Minister for Home Affairs. Normalcy has slowly been returning in the country of 30 million people after weeks of upheaval that topped the previous government.
It feels really wonderful. Yes, we have achieved just in 2 days. This revelation was, I guess, will name in the history, and it was really good thing that we have did.
Moving on, Pakistan faced huge embarrassment at the United Nations after human rights lawyer and UN Watch executive director called Pakistan another state sponsor of terror during a UN Human Rights Council meeting discussion on the recent Israeli strikes on Qatar. Hillel Neuer, representing the UN Watch, was interrupted by Pakistani diplomat which backed Qatar against the Israeli attacks. Neuer, in his statement, called out Qatar for harboring terrorists and acting as a mediator by the day and a terror sponsor by night. While making the statement, he took the context of Israel bombing Hamas in Qatar and asked why Israel is being blamed for eliminating terrorists, while the US killing Osama bin Laden in Pakistan was celebrated and called as a victory.
But when the US killed bin Laden in Pakistan, the UN chief at the time celebrated that, quote, justice has been done to such a mastermind of international terrorism. France called it a victory for all democracies. We ask both. How is this different? Now, when Israel captured the Nazi Adolf Eichmann, rescued the hostages at Entebbe, and destroyed Saddam's nuclear reactor, the UN condemned Israel.
The Pakistani delegate, apparently angered by the reference, interrupted New Year and stressed respect for the UN Charter and rejected the remarks as unfounded accusations. Given only 4 seconds to conclude, Neuer called Pakistan a state sponsor of terror.
And Pakistan is another state sponsor of terror, so we thank their country.
Moving on, employees in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir have intensified their protest, demanding permanent status after decades of ad hoc service. They accuse the government of exploitation and double standards. We have a report.
Ad hoc and contractual employees of various government departments in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir recently staged a sit-in protest in front of the Central Press Club in Muzaffarabad, demanding permanent job status. The protesters, many of whom have served for over a decade on temporary contracts, said the government policies are unfair and discriminatory.
ये जो हमारा इस टाइम एहतजाज है, ये रोजगार बचाओ तहरीक है। इसमें हम अपने रोजगार, अपने रिज़्क बचाने के लिए अपनी फैमिली को में के कफील है, जो यहाँ पे अपने बेहतर मुस्तकबिल के लिए आज यहाँ पे हम स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं। इसमें मेरी खुद सर्विस 16 साल हो गई है और जो डे बाई डे जो गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी है वो समझ से बालातर हैं, क्योंकि अभी वो हमें एनटीएस या पीएस की तरफ लेके पीएससी की तरफ लेके जा रहे हैं। जो न्यू कमर लोग आ रहे हैं वो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह पढ़े लिखे हैं, हम भी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह पढ़े लिखे हैं, ग्रेजुएट हैं, इंजीनियरिंग की हुई है, लेकिन आज उनका हमारे साथ कंपटीशन करना 16 साल बाद, क्योंकि हमें 16 साल से एक सब्जेक्ट में महदूद कर दिया गया है और 16 साल बाद अगर कोई न्यू कमर आता है तो वो अपनी क्वालिफिकेशन या जिस तरह वो एनर्जी से यहाँ पे हमारे साथ परफॉर्म कर सकता है।
The protesters alleged exploitation as they were forced to work without job security, despite having served up to 20 to 30 years in many cases. They appealed authorities to regularize them through executive orders instead of further delaying tactics.
बाज लोग इनमें से 20 साल के, बाज के 23 साल हो गए, बाज के 18 साल हो गए। अब वो कहाँ जाएंगे? जाहिर रियासत को अगर ये भी चाहिए थे इन्हें बहुत पहले फारग कर देते। और दूसरी बात ये कि सिर्फ इस 2 साल में हमारे पास रिकॉर्ड है कितने बुजुर्ग के बंदे जो हैं वो आर्जी लगे और फिर इस 2 साल में मुस्तकिल हो गए। एक वजीर के तो 200 बंदे ब्याक जंबुश कलम जो है लगाए गए और मुस्तकिल हो गए। तो आपका दोहरा में यार तजाद है, ज्यादती है।
And as Washington pushes to free detained citizens abroad, the Trump administration's special envoy for hostage response met with the Taliban's foreign minister over Americans held in Afghanistan. Both parties emphasized the continuation of talks on various current and future issues in bilateral relations, particularly regarding citizens imprisoned in each other's countries, said a statement from the Afghan Foreign Ministry. There was no immediate statement from Washington on the meeting. Mahmoud Habibi, former head of Afghanistan Civil Aviation, has been detained in Afghanistan, according to Washington. The Taliban denies detaining him. The Taliban administration, which took power in 2021, is not recognized by Washington. Moving on, Sri Lanka is moving towards debt sustainability, Central Bank Governor P. Nandalal Veerasinghe has said ahead of its policy meeting on 23rd of September. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka surprised markets in May by trimming its overnight policy rate by 25 basis points to 7.75%, a move Veerasinghe said had nicely transmitted into the marketplace with very stable structures. Sri Lanka's economy declined sharply in 2022 and 2023, hit by a sovereign debt default, runaway inflation and acute shortages of fuel, food and medicine. The crisis triggered mass protest and political upheaval, forcing the government to seek a bailout from the IMF. Since then, the country has made significant progress in stabilizing its macroeconomic fundamentals. Inflation has eased, foreign reserves have improved, and the rupee has strengthened, allowing the central bank to gradually shift from crisis management to a more balanced monetary stance.
We have seen so far in the last 2 years, country has grown almost 5% last year, and this year is going to be very closer to 4.5 or close to 5%, which means we have been able to grow faster than what was required for us to, basically regain or maintain sovereignty sustainability. What it means is that if we are able to grow over 3%, and like what we see, 4-5% is not a challenge for Sri Lanka to grow in the future, next several, say 5-10 years, which means we should be able to stabilize and reach much more sustainable and comfortable level of this sustainability much faster than what we think.
That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.